Hi everyone, this is KK Diaz, your A-Game business coach, and you know where I am. I'm in my home today, right? It's 2019, today's the 3rd of January, and we're pretty much back at work, and I'm with my very, very good friend, Corey Holmes, who's based in the US. Corey, where are you today? You in DC?
Arlington, Virginia, actually. So it's right across the bridge, right across the Potomac River of Washington, D.C.
Beautiful. So briefly, my brother, please give the audience a brief introduction on who you are.
Okay. Corey Holmes. I'm a PhD candidate at Howard University here in Washington, D.C. Currently drafting the dissertation on the effect unemployment has on Black youth, specifically in Gauteng province. I have a passion for the continent, really have a passion for Southern Africa, and this specifically South Africa. Spent some time over there, and I think we'll get into that later. Recently married. It's going on a year now. Love to travel, love to write, love CNN, love world affairs.
Thanks, brother. Now, the first time we met was what, a good couple of years ago, and this was when you were working through Enablers, right?
Yeah, 2009.
2009. Wow,
yeah.
Bro, it's 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 10 years now. Wow. And it's funny that I was just thinking about the questions I would ask you, and one of the the comments that came to mind was you and I have kind of done work earlier on back then, 2009, maybe 2010, and we've kind of just been friends,
right.
Having fun, just partying. But we've always kept, kept in touch whenever you're in the country and when you're overseas. We did one or two things offline, but we kind of kept it real. And I think I've really enjoyed being friends and looking up to you and seeing all the wonderful things you're doing overseas. So can you please tell us a little bit about the work that you did in the country, and at some point you did leave? Give us some context around your work.
Okay. So the reason I was over there in 2009, I had recently received my MBA, right? And so I wanted some practical experience to go with all the theory that the university was pumping in my head. Prior to getting that MBA, I had owned a restaurant in Detroit, Michigan. I'm actually from Detroit.
Say hi to Eminem.
Yeah. But even before Eminem, the Motor City, the capital of the world, home of Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
But so I had a restaurant, and so I was looking specifically. I was in this program, the Black MBAs. It's an organization, nationwide organization, basically of like-minded people, peoples of color, with business degrees, graduate business degrees to be specific. And so I had a choice of 3 countries. It was the UK, actually the continent of Africa, specifically South Africa, then Australia. Australia actually wouldn't give me a visa because at that time I was 30.
Okay.
And so their rules were at the time, you only could have a 6-month visa. I'm not going all the way to Australia for 6 months. As you know, 6 months goes by like that.
Sure.
Wasn't really a big soccer fan, but I'm like, okay, I think the World Cup is coming in 2010.
Yeah.
And also in my master's program, I was writing a lot about Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma and the whole ANC faction at that time. Polokwane in 2007.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, wow, what better way to, I didn't go over there in a political context. I went over as a business consultant, right, with Enablers.
Yes.
But the politics, man, got me engulfed in it, and it's really cultivated my love affair for the country and where it possibly could be.
Now you did some work with small business owners, which is primarily the greater audience, the greater percentage of our audience rather. Tell us a little bit about the work that you did with small businesses through Enablers.
Okay, yeah, so when I was at Enablers, worked for a guy named Denver O'Connors. And he basically carved out a niche for me, right? So initially, I would have what we would call not even SMEs, but we will have potential SMEs, right? So a lot of these folks didn't even necessarily have business plans, right? And so my job was to help them not necessarily write a business plan, but get them in the mind state of owning a business is a lifestyle. Man, being an entrepreneur is a lifestyle, right?
Sure.
Owning a business, anybody can own a business, but being entrepreneurial is truly a lifestyle. So you have to eat and you have to sleep it. You wake up, you have nightmares about it. And what I will find is a lot of the potential candidates, they didn't necessarily want to be entrepreneurs. They just didn't have jobs, man. Yeah. And so fast forwarding real quick, and I'm gonna go back to enablers. That's why I chose the dissertation that I chose, right? Because you had a lot of folks who didn't necessarily know what entrepreneurship was. It didn't necessarily want to be an entrepreneur. They just wanted to be gainfully employed to be able to feed their families, 100%, right?
100%.
And so fast forward 8, 9, 10 years later, I came back to the country, and that's why I wanted to conduct the research that I conducted.
No, great. It makes perfect sense, and I love how you brought that statistic or that perspective, because it's one of the the big fights that I'm having with the ecosystem. Absolutely. That we are spending billions of rands, so much effort, trying to convince people to become entrepreneurs, when in actual fact we should be supporting those who are in business, who've got the scars, who've proven that they are dedicated, and who've actually gone through the first 3 to 5 years kind of gap. And these are the people who've shown true skin in the game, and the people who truly need our support. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay, cool. So now you leave South Africa after Enablers, and you go to work at a couple of other countries in some projects. Can you give us a little bit more context around at least what you've experienced in Africa? Because again, this show is really about the outside-in perspective, i.e., the people who are from around the world who've gotten to work in this country and learned 1, 2, maybe 3 things around this country or about this country and the continent. And we'd really love you to share those perspectives and kind of help us reflect on ourselves, because we are hardly able to put up that mirror and see who we are. So what are the 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you could highlight about who you believe you've gotten to know us as Africans and South Africans in particular?
So going back to my affinity for South African politics, right? And so when I left the country, I said, hey, I possibly could work for my own government. Had never thought about working for government. Remember, I was in the private sector, right? Yeah. My first degree was in accounting. My first 2 degrees, right? My business degree.
Yeah.
South Africa gets a bad rap in this perspective, right? So we all know about the apartheid regime, right? But what people don't understand currently is we never shifted the mind state, right? And so we're trying to put Band-Aids on, like you said. We want to push people to STEM. We want to push people to entrepreneurship. But until you decolonize the mind, right? Until you shift the mind state, until basic education, which should really be the foundation. That's what all funding from any and every source, right? Inside and outside South Africa, internally and externally. That funding should be in basic education, man. Oh, yeah. Private schools are always going to be okay because they're private, right? So they get to admit who they want to admit.
True.
But the majority of the young people in South Africa go to these basic schools, and they have to be stronger. So that's 1. So getting back to it. So 2, so when I came back here, I started working for the government here in DC, specifically on South African issues and African issues. I had worked in Mozambique, obviously my work in South Africa, but then personally, culturally, I started going out to other countries, right? Ghana, the Seychelles, Swaziland, of course, Ethiopia. Where else have I been? Oh, and let's not forget the North, Egypt, right? And so everyone that says that they're African is from this side, and this is where I get upset. If you don't have any skin in the game, right, which means boots on the ground, right? You don't have relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean, mutually beneficial relationships, right? Not extracting relationships. What can I get from the continent? What can I get from a specific member state? But what can we mutually beneficially gain? And it's not necessarily monetarily all the time, right?
True, so true.
And I think that's where, on this side, we have kind of missed the boat of cultivating cultural relationships. Real quick, China right now, whether you like them or not, they're there. And at the end of the day, when you are there, relationships will be cultivated just because you're there, right? And they're there in droves throughout the continent, north, south, east, and west. And so on this side, I think we're really missing the boat, man, because it's, you know, the East has a different culture than the West, and the West has a different culture than the South. And then within each region, you have different cultures. And then within each country, you have different cultures.
Oh yeah.
And so you have to take the time, and it's not a 2-week thing, right? Man, I've been there for what? My total time is almost 24 months there, right? And I still know what I don't know, right? But it was a great experience, man, and I would not be where I am today if it was not for that South African experience. Learning about Ubuntu, seeing folks where no matter the monetary situation they were in, they were happy, dude. Like, and there was certain days that I wanted for nothing, right? And still didn't feel like I was fulfilling my purpose. So that's what SA truly did for me. It gave me a purpose, right? And what I found was my purpose is through the pen. And so, yes, it's a dissertation, and yes, it's to get an accolade of a PhD, but truly this project, and it's a life's missions work. It's to document folks' story, right?
Sure.
The voiceless. And the people in Tempe. Right.
So the kind of stories that will help us reflect and
absolutely
sort of chart path forward. So sorry to interject. Please go ahead. The people in Tembisa, yeah?
Oh yeah. Tembisa, Deep Clue. And I'm naming places that I researched and been, right? Snake Park in Soweto, right? It ain't just Soweto. It's pieces in Soweto.
Sure.
You know, we used to hang out in Orlando, and you know, Snake Park is a little different than Orlando.
I know.
Right? So, you know, Alex, Yeovil, right? I've been to these places, man, and hung out with folks in these places. Was I uncomfortable sometimes? Yes, and that's just natural. But if you come from a humanistic point of view, that's the one thing I can say about South Africans in my experience. If you come from a humanistic point of view, where I'm human, I bleed just like you. It's a mutual respect, man. And you know it, man. I love SA, man. You can see it in my face. Like, I know. It's one of the few topics that I talk about in life where I'm animated, like I was still 7, right?
True.
So,
you're always very, very much home when you're here, bro. You know, which is why I appreciate it, and I think you qualify equally, if not more, than everybody else that I'm featuring or interviewing on this segment. Now, you've mentioned some interesting things. You said Snake Park is different to Orlando, and Alex is obviously different to Yeovil. Now, tell me a little bit about how different we are within ourselves, and potentially how different we treat each other in terms of
So now I'm gonna give you a little snippet of my research, right? So first off, and this is just from my small sample size, young folks in Alex, man, will not be denied. I have talked to young women and I have talked to young men, and they will just not take no for an answer. I was pleasantly surprised, and it made me say, a mom's lie. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. But then you have other folks, and I won't name the organizations, but I talked to a few organizations in Josie, where you had young folks that just weren't prepared. But it wasn't prepared. It was an unpreparedness of, I'm just doing this just to do it. And what I mean by that is, KK, show up to be on time to a mentorship program, right?
Oh yeah.
Show up to be on time, ready to learn. Nobody knows everything.
Oh yeah.
Right? Turn your phone off. This is basically a classroom setting. You're trying to gain skills, right? So let's show the organization and the facilitator the proper respect of, if nothing else, you don't have to say anything. Just sit there, right?
Yeah.
And be as attentive as you possibly can.
Be present. Be present.
Be present, man. And in a lot of these organizations, I didn't see that. So the narrative, and I believed it at first until I started going into these organizations. The narrative is X, Y, and Z doesn't do anything for the youth. It's not necessarily true, man, because I've seen it. They try, right? Now, whether resources can be divvied to other places and, that's to be said. But
yeah,
I've seen folks try.
Yeah. Do you think we try hard enough though? So let's give it some perspective.
Yeah.
1, we don't try. 10, we try our best. Right? So from 1 to 10, how much do you believe we're trying?
Okay. So let me peel that back a little bit. So, and everything is about classism now, right? And so you'll find that small elite group that they had everything handed to them, man, right? And so folks in Alex didn't have everything handed to them. And so they're hungry for it. But their issue is they don't have the network, right? So I was at a tech conference at VITS a while back. And what I told the folks was I specifically was talking to the youth. I'm like, you all have this opportunity, but I know hundreds of kids that will never set foot in a university, let alone VITS. It is your job. You are mandated to go back, each one teach one, lift your brother and sister up, give them the information, right? Stop hoarding the information. And we do that all over, man. It's not just SA, right? Definitely do it over here as well. We hoard information, we don't share. We're not transparent. But specifically in SA, where last week I was reading an article about, I won't tell you the author's name because I had an interview with him, but he basically said that, in his opinion, he thinks that there's a conspiracy to keep young folks down because they want to keep the economy a status quo, meaning we know what the whites own. What, 80% of the land to 10% of the population, all the minerals, etc. But then there's a black middle class that does, if you let other folks in, then what does that do to them, right? It'll saturate the market, right? And then they might have to actually work, right? Or find a new skill or develop their skills even more, right? Yeah. And so now there's a status quo where the blacks live well, live high off the hog, live, Yeah. And the article was interesting. Do I think he's totally wrong? Not necessarily, because it's been what? It's going on 25 years. It'd be 25 years this year, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, I mean, and I know economic freedom wasn't the first thing talked about. It was political freedom, but they go hand in hand, man. And we talk about that a lot here in the States. Business and politics go hand in hand. It's just what it is. It's always been like that, whether you want to admit it or not. And I think a lot of the times, too many people have tried to disengage them and have them on separate aisles, but they're nexus.
Yeah, true. Corey, so in closing the loop, bro, can you tell us a little bit about your research dissertation? Any interesting stats or conclusion or outcomes that came out of it?
Yeah, so I'm submitting 2 chapters. Mm-hmm. A chapter on education and a chapter on history, kind of detailing what I was talking about, decolonizing the mind. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to put those in a few journals. I want you to, where is this? It's an organization called I Am We Are. right?
Yeah.
Yep. I am we are. I want you to go. IamWeAre.org. And it's a young lady named Misha Robinson. She's working in the Royal Muffle King, bro.
Yeah. One of my other clients, yeah.
She's actually putting basically my research into practice. She was already doing it. I actually met her over there, but I told her whatever I can do to help, I'm going to do. And basically what I have found, and this is not a secret, I am not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
The earlier you can get a child motivated, one, mentorship is key, bro. What I found in South Africa, yeah, it's cool to say hi to the American guy, but guess what really sticks? When they see a KK,
yeah,
right? They came from the Tom shift.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They came from the Ghazi, right?
Yeah.
That's what really resonates with young South Africans, because you're them and they are you.
Oh yeah.
Two, how can you keep setting these young kids up to fail with this national test, knowing that the basic education system is subpar, and they're taking the same test as a private school student?
Oh man.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. And three, with the free education, I'll go back and forth on that, and I know this is not the platform for that, but just real quick, I equate that to what you said earlier about the entrepreneurship of giving funding to those who have sweat equity in the game. Remember, we used to always talk about sweat equity.
Yeah.
That's the same thing you should do with free education. It is folks out here struggling. I have interviewed countless folks who had to stop at their LLB because they didn't have money, right, to do the articles and then get the LLM. Let's get that money to those folks. Let's get that money to folks who have been struggling to pay.
The people who are working hard. Yeah. The people who are showing commitment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just letting the floodgates open.
Yeah.
So, I know everybody needs an opportunity, and education is not just formal education, right?
Sure.
So, it's my small take on that, because I know we're short on time, but
yeah, brother, it's always a pleasure chatting to you, and I do look forward to seeing your reports, seeing your documents.
Absolutely, I'll be back October, somewhere between October and November. Hopefully to get all my stakeholders together. So that's academicians, so government folks, folks like you. Yeah. I'm in the SME space, NGOs, of course, and of course my main stakeholders, the young folks themselves, man. Of course. I love the feedback, right? Of course, yeah. That's what makes research great.
Oh, cool. Let's keep in touch, and maybe in parallel to what you're doing, we'll set up something else on the side. See where my team and I and some of my partners, we can kind of, extend what you'll be doing and take it further, and just
absolutely, bro.
Pause and make as much noise, as much ruckus around it, to kind of just shed the light on the knowledge, the research, the outcomes, and basically, again, to help us chart a better way forward. Corey, any last words, brother?
Siyabonga, Booty. Bruh, I know you're going to keep doing great things, bro. I'm always proud of you. Thank you for sharing your platform with me. This is not a project. This is passion for me. This is family, right? And so, as always, it's mutual, man. Whatever I can do on this side. If I can't do it, I'll try to help and find someone. But I look forward to seeing you in about 10 months, man, and keep me abreast. And when some of my stuff finally gets published, I'm shooting it to you, man, to put it on your platforms.
Oh, most def.
You're dealing with young folks, man, and
true.
It's information, right?
True. We gotta share.
Absolutely,
brother. Pass my regards to the family.
You as well, bro. You as well.
Keep fulfilling that purpose and keep in touch, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. If you do have an update, let me know, and we'll do another interview just to update the folks out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely October, November when you're coming through. Let's do this.
Yeah, graduation is supposed to be May 11th, so that would be a big update. I'll come back on.
Let's do that. Nice.
With my cap on and gown.
Oh yeah, nice one, brother. All the best. It's been nice chatting to you, and all the best with training. Yeah.
Thanks, Booty. Shot, bruh. Happy New Year to you.
You too. Peace.
All right.
All right.
Later.